was working in corporate America as a marketing director out of college for the first 20 years out of college, and I was really miserable. During those 20 years, I graduated this like healthy, normal college kid, and in the 20 years, I ended up becoming a smoker of 2 packs of cigarettes a day. I was drinking 8 beers a day. I was a lot more overweight. Like I was 65 pounds over my normal body weight. I had developed a debt of $150,000. I was $150,000 in debt, and I was going to doctors for help, and they were pumping me up with pharmaceuticals, like you could line them up from here to here, excessive amounts of pharmaceuticals. And my life was just going down the toilet. And the reason this was really because I was in the wrong career. It wasn't even about my career, really. It was about my divine mission, my purpose. But there's one thing during those 20 years that I had this mantra, which was that I wanted to be of service to animals on a global scale. I just kept saying, how do I be of service to animals on a global scale? And I would get all these like opportunities to go do things. I'd go off traveling around the world, and I'd volunteer with animals all over the world, like elephants, orangutans in Borneo, and obviously dogs and cats, whales, dolphins, guinea pigs, rabbits. I mean, you name it. I did volunteer things with different animals in different places around the world. And eventually, what ended up happening, because I just kept saying, how do I be of service to animals on a global scale? Because I wasn't making the difference. Like I was doing these volunteer things, I was signing the petitions, I was like, working in not-for-profit. It wasn't making a difference. It didn't seem to matter. And even though I helped some animals along the way, I wasn't making the kind of impact that I wanted to make. And I had a secondary mantra always, which was that I wanted God to be my boss. And I had a third mantra, which was that I always wanted the truth of everything. I want the truth. I want the truth no matter what. This got me into a lot of relationship challenges, of course, because I would call people out on their truth and they didn't like it. I thought that was really funny what you were saying there, Lori, because when I heard you say, you said something like, my father doesn't seem to see it. I'm like, that is the mark of a true psychic. Because you're seeing things that other people aren't seeing. You just haven't fully harnessed your real gifts yet to know that you have abilities to see things that other people haven't yet fully embraced in themselves. So anyway, that was my thing. But eventually what ended up happening was my brother died of an unexpected drug overdose. And this sent me into that, 40-year-old questioning, what am I doing here? This is just, I'm not what I'm doing, what I'm meant to do here. And I ended up quitting my job and becoming a professional dog trainer, and that's where it started, really. And I was trained by a gentleman who spent 20 years training government service dogs, for the United States government, service dogs, and I worked under his tutelage for a year.
Was that here?
Yeah, that was in Los Angeles, actually. This gentleman was had worked at Lackland Air Force Base, and he actually had 1,000 people apply to work under his tutelage. Only 6 of us were recruited. And in the first 2 weeks, first of all, the first month, we didn't even get to touch dogs. We had to sit in classrooms and take tests. And then we worked in different, not for pounds, the pounds in South Central and North Central, North LA, and we would work with them, and we get videotaped and critiqued. Anyway, I worked under his tutelage for a year, and while I worked for him, what I would hear over and over again from the animals that I worked with, and I thought, like at that time, it just didn't really occur to me, but they'd say, you don't have to poke me, push me, prod me, pin me, shush me, push me, pin me down to get me to do what you want me to do. All you need to do is listen to me. And so I would be doing the training, but I'd be listening to them, and I'd start hearing things and learning from them. And after that, what happened was, and I'll finish this part of the story up with this, is I ended up leaving Los Angeles, and I moved to Maui for 2 years. And in those 2 years, I started getting trained professionally, not professionally, by professional animal communicators, and I started working more. I got my Reiki, I got a lot of healing modalities, training as a theta healer, and lots of other healing modalities. And I would literally start putting my hands on dogs and other animals and see them recover like from little things, almost like instantaneously. And they were all training me. There's a lot of really fascinating stories that came out of Maui. I'll just share really quickly a couple of them. There was this one time where I was I was working on this volunteer with rabbits in a rescue organization, and all these rabbits were like wounded, but it was a farm. And on the break times, I used to go and meet the animals on the farm. And there was this one time, this pig on this farm, and I was like having this dialogue with this pig, but I didn't even know. I was so relatively untrained at the time. And I lost sight of the fact that we were having this dialogue, like, how are you? Life is good here. I like living on this farm. They're really nice to me. Just those little basics. And all of a sudden, my mind wandered, and I thought, God, I can't even believe people eat these animals. This pig took off. He ran to the other end of the corral. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Do you really know? I don't know what I'm doing, right? You're like, I really don't know. And this pig said, no, that's it. We're done. You use this as a teaching lesson. We don't like to be eaten. So anyway, that was one example. Then there was this one other example, and there's so many, but I'll finish with this, where I was just starting animal communication, really practicing it. And I had found this woman through the internet. I never met her, but she had this horse. She was on another island. I was on Maui, and she was on Oahu. And she was looking for someone to communicate with her horse. And so I agreed that I would try. I was brand new. I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. I didn't think. Anyway, so I get this picture of this horse. I never met the horse in person. And all I keep hearing from this horse is, I keep hearing in my mind, I'm stumped, I'm stumped, I'm stumped. And I don't know what this means, because I think it's my thoughts that I'm stumped. Like, I'm not getting anything, I'm stumped, But I keep hearing, go below the knee, go below the knee, look below the knee. I couldn't even see below the knee. It was just a face picture of the horse. So I write back to this woman. I never even spoke to her. And I write back to her, and I'm like, I don't know what happened. I'm sorry. I keep hearing I'm stumped. I think I'm stumped. I just can't get it. But the one thing I kept hearing is go below the knee. What does that mean? And she says, Lori, we had to amputate below the knee on this horse. I'm like, don't tell me anything else. Oh my God, I can't believe it. So I go back to the horse, and here's what I hear. There's bad people around me. They want to kill me. Don't let them kill me. And oh, by the way, the horse says, I want to live. And oh, by the way, can you get me some more carrots? So I go back and tell the lady, and she says, oh my God, this is exactly right. We've been deciding, do we euthanize this horse or not? And this horse, now that you got this, we're going to let this horse live. We're going to get a prosthetic. We just didn't know if the horse was in too much pain or anything or what. So anyway, this horse went on to live, and as far as I know, is still alive. Anyway, so we have these abilities even when we don't even trust ourselves. Back then even, and I had like no training at that point. I just had a sincere, heartfelt love for animals, and I just emptied myself and really opened myself to receive whatever I could. And we all have this gift. I was a novice at that time with no training. So I can tell you, you guys can all do it. So that's kind of how I ended. That's a short version. But since then, I've just continued to refine my gifts. And the one thing I really realize is the animal kingdom, the animals are here for us, but not in the way we have thought. They're really here to assist us in our journey back to oneness, back to our consciousness, our God selves, our knowing ourselves as divine beings, that we're never separated from them or from one another or from our source, God. We don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to go to islands like Maui. We don't have to go to churches or synagogues. They're right here with us all the time. And they are our deepest, most beloved. They're teachers and healers to each and every one of us. So anyway,
I think that's such a beautiful way to segue. Is they've got this amazing energy field, and one of my dearest client friends had one animal with the same 4 animals that had the same condition. The animal would wind up with the same exact, and she would go and find 4 different ones that transitioned, and when they transitioned, it was very quickly, and they all had the same exact diagnosis, cause of death. And in the understanding, when she healed what was causing the dis-ease in herself, her subsequent pets, none of them had that illness or that, I have such a deep understanding of how they are a guardian of our being. Eckhart Tolle actually wrote a book. Eckhart Tolle is The Power of Now, being in the moment, and really speaks to our pets being present with us to remind us constantly to be here now, to be here now. And many times our animals take on exactly reflecting or mirroring for us what we're not able to see for ourselves.